AITA for making my parents repay money they hid after my sister revealed my DNA results? I'm Alice, 34, and my sister Claire is 4 years older. She had always been the polished daughter my parents introduced first, while I was the one expected to smooth over arguments, refill glasses, and stay behind to stack plates. The ridiculous part is that I still kept a note on my phone with everyone's usual drink order because I hated arriving empty-handed. Mom liked iced tea with extra lemon. Dad drank black coffee after dinner. Claire wanted sparkling water, but only if it was cold enough to sting her teeth. Aunt Denise took decaf and always apologized for being difficult, even though she was the easiest person at the table. That note was basically my job description in the family. Pay attention. Be useful. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. The anniversary dinner was supposed to celebrate my parents' 40 years together. Mom asked me to come early because the dessert order was wrong and the place cards looked uneven. When I arrived, she was standing over the dining table moving forks by half an inch. You put Denise next to Robert, she said. Dad likes Denise. He likes her in small doses. They're going to be sitting together for 2 hours, not sharing a bunker. Mom gave me the look that meant I was making things harder. I moved the card. Claire arrived almost 40 minutes later carrying a laptop and a bakery box she had not ordered or paid for. Mom lit up as if she had brought the entertainment for an awards show. She made a family trivia game, Mom told me. Claire set the laptop beside the television. Something fun. Childhood pictures, old stories, nothing serious. I was taping a torn corner of a place card. Nothing serious usually doesn't require an HDMI cable. Relax, she said. Not everything needs to be documented. I took a picture of the finished table. Claire laughed. See? This is why people think you're intense. That's usually said right before someone wishes something had been documented. She rolled her eyes and checked twice that the television could mirror her whole screen, including browser tabs. I noticed because the first time she tested it, a row of small windows flashed across the television before she minimized them. One looked like a family tree. I assumed it was part of the game. Dinner started normally. Dad gave a short toast about Mom being patient, which made several people laugh harder than the line deserved. Claire ran the trivia game between courses. She showed pictures of us in bad haircuts, asked which cousin broke a lamp in 2004, and included a question about the year I refused to wear a dress for a family photo. You didn't refuse, I said. I spilled juice on it. Claire clicked to the answer slide. Alice says she spilled juice. Mom says she staged a protest. Everyone laughed. I laughed too because that was how it worked. Claire told a story, Mom confirmed the version that made me difficult, and I either played along or became proof that I couldn't take a joke. Near the end, Claire said, Okay, last question. This is the one everyone will remember. I set my glass down and opened the voice recorder on my phone under the table. That sounds less like trivia and more like a threat, I said. Only if you're dramatic. The next slide had a screenshot from a consumer DNA site. My name was circled in red. Under it was a list of close family matches, none connected to Dad's side of the family. For a second, nobody spoke. Then Claire leaned over and placed a new card in front of me. She had written guest across it in the same red marker. Well, she said, smiling at the room, I guess Alice has been auditioning for the wrong family all these years. A cousin made a startled sound that could have turned into a laugh. Someone at the far end of the table did laugh, then stopped when I looked up. Mom dropped her fork. Dad did not ask what he was looking at. That was the first thing I understood clearly. Claire's cruelty hurt, but my parents' faces told me this was not news to them. Claire clicked again. A family tree graphic appeared with Dad's branch grayed out. She had added a caption, "No match found." Where did you get this? I asked. You gave me access to the family tree years ago, she said. Remember when I was helping organize Grandma's side? I did remember. I had taken a DNA test out of curiosity and added Claire as a shared tree manager because she was the one who liked genealogy. I had forgotten she still had access. She had not hacked anything. She had simply used permission I gave her to turn private information into dinner entertainment. A notification window appeared in the corner of the television. I saw a woman's profile picture and part of a name before Claire minimized it. Ruth Mercer. Close family. Claire moved on too quickly. I looked at Mom. Did you know? This is not the place, she said. Dad stared at the table. I looked back at Claire. Send me the original presentation. She blinked. What? The original file. Not screenshots. Why? If I'm going to be your punchline, I want the version with metadata. Her smile returned because she thought I was trying to sound threatening while falling apart. She picked up her phone and sent it before anyone could tell her not to. Then I turned to my cousin Mark, who had been filming parts of the trivia game. Did you get the last slide? He lowered his phone. Most of it. Send me the video, please. Claire crossed her arms. Oh my God. It was a family history game. I didn't invent your DNA. Repeat the joke. What? The line about auditioning for the wrong family. Repeat it for the recording. Her face changed. Not much, but enough. Alice, Mom said sharply. You were comfortable saying it 30 seconds ago. Mom stood and told me to help her in the kitchen. That was also how it worked. If I was hurt, I was removed from the room so the person who hurt me would not feel embarrassed. In the kitchen, she shut the door and whispered, Claire went too far. Did you know Dad wasn't my biological father? We don't know that for certain. Did you suspect it? She looked toward the door. Your father raised you. That is what matters. Dad came in behind us. He looked older than he had during the toast. Nothing changes, he said. I'm your dad. I wanted to believe that sentence was enough. Dad had taught me how to drive. He sat in a hard plastic chair through every one of my childhood dental appointments because I was afraid of being alone. When I was 19 and my car stalled, he showed up in the rain without making me feel stupid. He had been there. That made what came next worse, not better. I'm not asking whether you loved me, I said. I'm asking what you knew. Mom rubbed her forehead. There was one mistake a long time ago. We made the decision parents had to make. What decision? There was never any money, she said. I stared at her. I had not mentioned money. Dad's head turned toward her. Linda. What money? I asked. Nothing, she said too quickly. I mean, people hear stories like this and start thinking there was some secret arrangement. There wasn't. Dad said. We handled it. Then he corrected himself. We would have handled it if there had been anything to handle. I took my phone from my pocket and stopped the recorder. When did each of you first think Dad might not be my biological father? Mom's face hardened. This is our anniversary. It became the time when you let Claire put it on a television. Dad reached for my arm, but I stepped back. I need you to go home and calm down, he said. That's probably a good idea. I went back to the dining room, picked up my bag and looked around the table. The party can continue, I said. But until I verify what Claire showed you, nobody repeats claims about me to anyone. Claire laughed once. You are so humorless. You had 6 weeks to choose private honesty. You chose an audience. Keep the same confidence when I ask questions. Then I left without clearing a single plate. The family group chat started before I reached home. Mom, please stop discussing this. Your father is devastated. Claire. She asked for the file and now acts like I attacked her. Me. You displayed private genetic information at dinner. Claire. It was on the family account. Me, that explains access, not consent. Dad. No more messages tonight. Me. Then I will email the questions tomorrow. Aunt Denise wrote that the joke was cruel. 2 cousins said Claire had gone too far but added that I should remember Dad had raised me. Mark sent me the video privately and apologized for not stopping her. Claire posted the slide deck in the group chat to prove she had not altered anything after the fact. That was her first real mistake. I downloaded the original file, exported the group chat, saved the video in 2 places, and changed the permissions on my DNA account. The presentation's properties showed it had been created 6 weeks before the dinner and edited on 12 separate days. This was not a spontaneous joke. When I opened the slide that showed my match tree, I noticed the screenshot had been cropped. I pulled apart the image layers and found the portion Claire had covered with a white rectangle. Ruth Mercer. Probable close family. There was also part of a message preview. Did you ever receive Daniel's blue envelopes? I logged into the DNA account directly. Ruth had sent 3 messages over the previous 4 months. Claire had marked the first 2 as read. The newest message said, "I don't want to pressure you. Daniel was my brother. He believed he might have a daughter. If your mother is Linda, please know he did not forget you." I sat on the floor beside my couch because my knees had started shaking. My phone rang. "Claire." I let it ring twice before answering. "You need to stop," she said. "Stop what?" "Contacting random people. You're going to humiliate Dad." "I haven't contacted anyone." "Well, don't contact Ruth." I went quiet. Claire filled the silence. "She's probably some scammer." "You knew her name." "It was on the page." "It wasn't on the slide you showed." I clicked around, Alice. "That's not a crime." "No. It's just another version. You've always wanted proof we treated you differently. You brought a screen. Nobody else was going to tell you. Nobody else was going to perform it." She sighed like I was exhausting her. "You're going to turn one stupid joke into a war. Put your explanation in writing." I hung up. She texted almost immediately. "I saw the Mercer name on the DNA page. I didn't know anything else. I thought you already knew Dad might not be your real father." I saved it. Then I wrote to Ruth. "I may be the person you're looking for, but I need to verify everything before we discuss family history. Please do not contact my parents or sister." Her answer came 20 minutes later. "Understood. You don't owe me trust because a website says we share DNA. I can give you information when you're ready." The next morning, I scheduled an independent relationship test through a laboratory that required identity documents and handled the samples under documented procedures. I did not want Claire's consumer test to become the foundation for every decision that followed. The appointment was 8 days away. During those 8 days, my parents called constantly. I answered once. Dad said, "Whatever that test says, don't forget who paid for your life." I closed my eyes. I can be grateful and still ask what you signed. I didn't sign anything. Then answering questions should be easy. You're treating me like a suspect. I'm treating you like an adult who knew something about my life and chose not to tell me. He lowered his voice. I was there. He wasn't. You don't know yet who was trying to be there. Dad ended the call. That night, Aunt Denise asked to meet me. We sat in a quiet booth the next afternoon, and she kept tearing the paper sleeve off her straw into smaller pieces. "I don't know what was true," she said. "I need you to understand that. Tell me what you remember, not what you think it means." She nodded. When I was around 9, Denise had walked into my parents' kitchen and seen Mom ripping up a blue envelope. Dad was angry. Denise heard the name Daniel and the words paternity test. She said Dad told Mom, "Take the check if it keeps him away." Denise had left before the argument ended. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked. "I thought keeping out of it was staying neutral." "It was neutral for you." She looked down. "You're right." She did not ask me to forgive her. That helped more than an excuse would have. I asked her to write down exactly what she remembered, include the approximate year, and sign and date it. She did it that evening and sent me a scan. The independent DNA results took almost 3 weeks. During the wait, I barely slept. Part of me wanted the first result to be wrong. Not because I was ashamed of being Daniel's daughter, but because confirming it felt like I was betraying Dad. I kept thinking about the child I had been. The girl waiting for Dad to clap from the bleachers. The girl who believed every family joke about her looking like nobody was harmless. The girl who had no idea adults were cashing checks and arguing over whether she should know another man's name. When the result arrived, it confirmed Ruth as a close biological relative. The relationship range, the age differences, and the supporting records all pointed to Daniel Mercer as my biological father. Ruth sent me a photograph after I told her. Daniel was about my age in it. He did not look exactly like me. There was no movie moment where I saw my own face copied onto his. But he had the same narrow eyes when he smiled and the same slightly crooked front tooth I had spent years blaming on bad luck. "He died 9 years ago," Ruth told me over the phone. He was 51. I had imagined finding a man I could confront. Instead, I found a grave and a folder. Ruth and I agreed to meet in a public place. She arrived with a canvas document case and did not try to hug me. "You don't owe us a relationship because the test says we're related," she said. "I need to say that first." "Thank you." She showed me returned birthday cards, copies of letters, a few photographs, and a notarized statement Daniel had signed years earlier. In it, he acknowledged that he might be my father and directed that a contingent share in a family trust remain preserved for any later verified child. The birthday cards were ordinary. That made them harder to read. One asked whether I still liked drawing horses. Another said he had heard I had learned to drive and hoped I was better at parallel parking than he was. A card sent when I was 16 came back with a handwritten notation. "Recipient declines contact." "I was 16, I said. Ruth's mouth tightened. "I know." Another envelope had been returned when I was 18. Another at 21. Daniel had written in one letter that he trusted Mom to arrange testing when I was ready. In another, years later, he admitted he should have taken more direct action. Ruth did not defend that. "He tried," she said, "but he also waited. You can be angry at both." That was the first honest thing anyone had said to me about him. Ruth gave me the contact information for Naomi Price, counsel for the successor trustee handling Daniel's family trust. Naomi's first call was careful and emotionally cold, which I later realized was exactly what I needed. "The document creates a possible right," she said. "Verification establishes whether it is yours. I cannot discuss confidential amounts or administration until your identity and kinship are verified through our process." "What did my mother tell you?" "I can tell you there is correspondence in the file. I cannot yet tell you whether every statement inside it is accurate." She sent instructions for certified identity documents and advised me to speak with independent counsel, because she represented the trustee, not me. After I completed the verification, Naomi scheduled a longer meeting. She explained that Daniel's trust was not a giant pile of money waiting for whoever produced a DNA test. The addendum required documentary review, identity verification, and a formal determination that I qualified as a descendant. State law could affect related claims, so my own lawyer would need to advise me. Then she opened a separate file. "This is not the trust," she said. "This was a support escrow created while paternity remained unresolved." The payment history covered several years of my childhood and adolescence. The total was $86,400. Mom and Dad had signed deposit acknowledgments stating the funds would be used for my support. I read Dad's signature 3 times. "They told me there was no money." "The records show money," Naomi said. "How it was used is a different question." She pointed out that ordinary household spending could have benefited me even if it came from a shared account. A suspicious transfer was not proof by itself. That was why the trustee was requesting an accounting. One payment caught my attention. It arrived 2 weeks before Claire's wedding venue deposit. The amount was nearly identical. I did not call my parents. I emailed them. "Did either of you ever receive money, reimbursements, checks, escrow distributions, or other financial support connected to Daniel Mercer or possible paternity involving me?" Mom replied first. "No. This obsession is hurting your father." Dad wrote an hour later. "There may have been small reimbursements years ago. Nothing significant and nothing that changes who your family is." Claire sent me a separate message. "You're inventing an inheritance because you're angry about the dinner. Dad paid for your whole childhood. Try remembering that." I waited 2 days and asked Mom again. "To be precise, are you saying you and Dad never received any funds connected to Daniel Mercer that were described as support for me?" Her answer changed. "There was nothing that belonged to you personally. Any minor reimbursements were for general family expenses." I saved every message. I did not reveal the amount. The trustee sent a formal preservation notice and requested old account records. My lawyer asked for tax documents, deposit records, and information about transfers from the accounts that received the escrow funds. That was when my family began telling relatives I was trying to take Dad's house. No letter mentioned the house. No demand asked for it. But the rumor spread quickly because it made me sound greedy and Dad sound endangered. One cousin called to ask whether I was really willing to make my parents homeless. "No," I said. "Ask Claire where she heard that." The cousin hesitated. She said you're chasing old money and threatening everything they own. Can you send me the complete thread? I don't want to get involved. You're already involved. You called me with her accusation. I'm asking you not to argue with her. Just send me the messages exactly as they are. He did. Most of the thread was predictable. Claire said I had always resented her. Mom said I was punishing Dad for not sharing my DNA. A few relatives said the family should settle things privately. Then I reached a message Claire had sent before the anniversary dinner. Once she realizes she's not Dad's blood, she'll back off Grandma's property. Mom had replied, "Do not mention the old payments." Claire answered, "I didn't say anything about the Mercer account. She doesn't even know that name." A later message said, "She doesn't know what was paid for me, so don't give her ideas." I read that line until the words stopped looking real. Claire had not just discovered a DNA mismatch and made a cruel joke. She had found the Mercer correspondence months earlier. She knew there had been money. She believed humiliating me would weaken my claim to property from Dad's mother, because I was not biologically related to him. She wanted to reduce my place in one family without realizing the DNA match would lead me to another. I had the message chain preserved and authenticated. Then I texted her one final question. Before the anniversary dinner, did you know of any account, payment, or financial arrangement connected to Daniel Mercer? She replied, "I knew there were rumors and maybe an old folder. That doesn't mean I understood it. I didn't ask where the wedding money came from." I wrote back, "Thank you. I wanted your final answer in writing." Her typing bubble appeared, disappeared, and never returned. The accounting took months. It was not dramatic. There were no agents at the door, no frozen bank accounts, and no single page labeled theft. There were old statements, faded copies, missing years, checks deposited into joint accounts, and transfers that required explanation. Some of the escrow money had clearly gone toward the household while I was a minor. Groceries, utilities, insurance, school expenses. I was not going to pretend none of that benefited me simply because I was angry. My lawyer asked what result I wanted. "I don't want a fantasy number," I said. "I want the number they cannot explain." The strongest tracing showed at least $47,600 had been directed primarily to Claire. Part funded her wedding deposit. Another portion went into a transfer used for her property down payment. Dad had signed one of the instructions personally. That number did not include every dollar I suspected had been misused. It included the amount supported by the records. My parents requested mediation. Their first offer was $25,000 if I signed a broad release, kept the matter confidential, waived unknown claims, and agreed that any future trust distribution would be considered family money for purposes of helping Claire and my parents. I read the release twice. The document named categories of distributions they had previously claimed did not exist. Dad called after my lawyer rejected it. "Take the offer," he said. "End this. End the accounting or my questions. It keeps everyone out of court. It pays me less for saying you did nothing. Your mother and I raised you. We made mistakes, but we did not steal your childhood. I didn't say you did. That is what you're acting like. No. I'm saying you accepted money tied to me, hid the person who sent it, and used a traceable part to improve Claire's life. Those are facts separate from whether you loved me." He was quiet. Then he said, "I thought if you never knew him, I could never lose you to him." That sentence almost broke me because it was the closest he had come to telling the truth. "You didn't lose me to him," I said. "You lost me when you decided I had no right to choose." My parents asked for an emergency family meeting. They said it was to heal privately. Their proposed agenda included signing the release. I agreed to attend on one condition. The people who had been present when Claire displayed my DNA could attend too. Mom refused at first. "This is a private financial matter." So was my DNA. "Alice, don't turn this into revenge. You included them when you explained who I was. They can be present when you correct it." I prepared a binder arranged by date. I included the DNA records, slideshow metadata, returned envelopes, payment acknowledgments, group messages, and written denials. I redacted account information unrelated to the dispute. I made copies only for the people who needed them. Then I bought a small gift box. Inside I placed 3 things: The red marker Claire had left behind after the anniversary dinner, a copy of the wedding transfer record, and her message saying I did not know the Mercer name. I invited Aunt Denise, Mark, and the other relatives who had watched the presentation. Several accused me of staging a public takedown. They still came. The meeting was held in my parents' dining room. The same television was mounted on the wall. The same table stood beneath it, although the anniversary flowers were gone. Mom began by saying the goal was healing. Dad pushed the release toward me. Claire said, "Money has changed you." I did not answer immediately. I let all three of them speak. Mom said there had been one old mistake but no intentional concealment. Dad said he did not remember signing any payment documents. Claire said she knew nothing about Mercer before the dinner, and had only wanted the family to stop pretending we all looked alike. I wrote down each claim. Then I asked, "Is that the version each of you wants attached to your name?" Dad frowned. "What kind of question is that?" A final one before I opened the binder. Nobody changed an answer. I started with dates. "When did you first tell Daniel he might be my father?" I asked Mom. "I don't remember." "Before or after I was born?" "Before." "When did he stop contacting you?" "Before you were old enough to understand." I placed the envelope postmarked when I was 18 on the table. Mom looked at it and said, "That does not prove I saw it." I placed the returned card from when I was 16 beside it. Recipient declines contact. "Who wrote that?" I asked. "I don't know." "Who was authorized to decline for me?" "You were a child." "I was 18 on the second one." Dad said, "This is not helping." I turned to him. "When did the support payments begin?" "There were no support payments." "Small reimbursements?" "That may have been what your mother called them." I placed his signed acknowledgement in front of him. "Is this your signature?" He looked at it for a long time. "Yes." The room changed. Not dramatically. Nobody gasped. A chair creaked. Mark stopped tapping his thumb against his glass. I put down the next acknowledgement, then the transfer instruction Dad had signed years later. Mom said, "You are removing everything from context." "I'm asking for the context." "We made the decision parents had to make." "That's not what I asked." "You were a child." There was no painless version. Try that answer again with the date. Claire cut in. "This is disgusting. Dad paid for your food, your clothes, school, holidays. You had no problem being part of the family when he was paying for your life." That landed because part of it was true. Dad had supported me. He had shown up. I had loved him without reservation. "I know what he gave me," I said. "I also know what he signed." "You're acting like they stole from you." I looked at her. "I didn't mention theft. That's what this whole performance is." I hadn't reached the money yet. Claire stopped talking. I slid the gift box across the table. "For you." She stared at it. "Are you serious? You like presentation." She opened it. The red marker was on top. Under it was the message thread. Under that was the transfer record showing the date and amount routed toward her wedding deposit. Claire's face went blank. I said, "You circled my name in red because you thought I was the outsider. That red line leads straight to your wedding deposit." Mom immediately said, Claire did not know where that money came from. Nobody had asked her. Claire looked at Mom. "You told me it came from savings." Mom's eyes filled. "It did come through our savings account." "That is not the same sentence," I said. Claire picked up the printed message where she had written that I did not know the Mercer name. "I saw a folder," she said. "That doesn't mean I understood it." "You understood enough to use my DNA to push me away from Grandma's property. That property belongs in Dad's family. I am in Dad's family because he raised me. That was your argument until the property mattered." Claire looked at Dad. "Tell her." Dad stood. "The family has heard enough." "No," I said. "The family heard enough at the anniversary dinner. This is the correction." He pointed toward the binder. "You came here to humiliate us." "I came with records." Claire came with a joke. "You wanted this to hurt." I did not lie. "Yes, part of me did." The room went quiet again. "I wanted you to feel the floor move the way it moved under me. The difference is that I used your records, Not a punchline. Mom whispered. Are you really willing to destroy this family over money? You spent years telling me I owed you for keeping me. Meanwhile, you were accepting money attached to my name and using part of it to make Claire's life easier. You don't get to call that sacrifice anymore. Dad sat back down. I pushed the release toward him. I'm not signing this. I am demanding the traceable amount, agreed review costs, complete disclosure, and a written correction to everyone who received the false version. I am not asking for every dollar that entered your accounts. I am asking for the amount the accounting can support. Mom said they could not pay it without selling the family's vacation property. The property was not anyone's primary home. It had sentimental value because our extended family had used it for reunions and summer weekends. Several relatives immediately asked me to reduce the demand so it could stay in the family. Split the difference, one uncle said. Everyone has suffered enough. You all want the loss spread evenly now, I said. None of you asked for the lie to be spread evenly then. Aunt Denise looked at him and said, she is not the one who spent it. Not everyone sided with me. One cousin left early and later told Mom I had become cruel. My uncle said Dad's years of parenting should count for more than old paperwork. Mark said Claire had caused the public part but believed I could have handled the money privately. They were not completely wrong. I could have accepted less. I could have allowed the correction to stay vague. I could have protected the property that held memories for people who had not signed any checks. I chose not to. The settlement took several more months. My parents sold the non-essential property. They repaid the traceable funds, covered part of the accounting and review costs, and provided the remaining records. Claire agreed to return the portion she directly received through a payment schedule instead of producing money she did not have overnight. I did not pursue the most punitive legal theory my lawyer said might be available. The outcome depended on documents, negotiation, and rules that vary by state. There was no dramatic courtroom judgment. There was an enforceable agreement. Naomi called it an ending you can collect, not an ending that repairs the past. Once my identity and descendant status were formally verified, the trustee recognized my preserved share. I kept it separate. I did not treat it as family money. I did not give Claire a percentage because we had grown up together. My parents also sent a written correction to the people who had attended the anniversary dinner. The first draft said only that new information had clarified Alice's family history. I rejected it. Mom called me. Do you really need Claire named? She needed me named when she put it on the screen. The final version acknowledged that my parents had known about possible paternity, withheld correspondence, accepted financial support connected to me, and given incomplete answers when I asked about it. It also stated that Claire's presentation had been planned in advance, and that she knew of the Mercer name before the dinner. It was not a beautiful apology. It was accurate. Claire sent me a private message afterward. I'm sorry I did it in front of everyone. I thought you knew. I replied. You texted Mom that I didn't. She wrote, I meant I thought you knew Dad might not be biological. I didn't know the financial details. I answered, that is not helping you. A few hours later, she asked whether I intended to share any of the trust distribution because we were still sisters, and because losing the vacation property had affected everyone. I told her future communication needed to be in writing, and limited to the repayment schedule or necessary family matters. We did grow up as sisters, I wrote. That's why you knew exactly where to cut. I have limited contact with my parents now. Dad and I spoke once without lawyers. He apologized for hiding Daniel's letters, then spent half the conversation explaining why he had been afraid. I believe he loved me. I also believe he chose control over honesty. Both things can be true. Mom invited me to a fresh start dinner with the same relatives. She wanted no documents, no discussion of money, and no mention of Daniel. I declined. Ruth and I are building something slower. She sends me photographs and stories when I ask. She does not call me family as a demand. I do not call Daniel Dad. I know him through return cards, signatures, and the memories of people who loved him. That is not the same as having known him. I used a small part of the trust distribution to preserve the letters and scan the family records properly. The rest stayed where it belonged under my control. A few weeks after the settlement was complete, I opened the note on my phone with everyone's drink orders. Mom, extra lemon. Dad, black coffee. Claire, sparkling water cold enough to sting. For years, I had treated remembering those details as proof that I deserved a place at the table. I deleted the note. Then I made a new one. It was shorter. It held the names of people who noticed what I needed to. I did not find a better family waiting behind a DNA result. I found the truth: some people willing to earn a place in my life, and the right to stop auditioning for people who had already decided my role. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.